Not for the free one. This is lesson 6263 part 2. The notes for December 1st continued because I ran out of recording time. I'll pay for more recording time by tomorrow. All right. We're going to try this question. We're going to try it by hand. The determinant. It says find the determinant, okay? Go this diagonal, negative 12, minus this diagonal. The minus is part of the problem. So it's minus negative 6, which becomes what? This becomes plus 6. So the answer is negative 6. So then it is 1 over the determinant, 1 over negative 6, times, now I know it says it right there, but I'm doing it with you here. You switch those two, negative 6, positive 2. And these two you switch the signs only, negative 3, positive 2. Now we're supposed to multiply. Negative 1/6 times negative 6 is positive 1. Negative 1/6 times 2 is 2/6, which reduces to what? But it's negative. Okay. Negative 1/6 times negative 3 is 3/6, which is 1/2, positive or negative? Okay. And then the last one? 2 times 1/6 is 2/6, which reduces to 1/3, and it's negative again, right? Okay. I'm going to try this on the calculator. Yes? Philip? The determinant. You do the determinant. Okay. Shh, guys. All right. I want you to type into your calculator matrix A, which was 2, negative 2, 3, negative 6. And I want to teach you to do both the determinant and the inverse on the calculator. So you go into matrix and edit matrix A to be a 2 by 2. All right, everybody ready? Back on the home screen, you want it to find the determinant of A. There's no reason to do this by hand if you had a 2, or on the calculator if you had a 2 by 2, it takes way too much time. But if you had a 3 by 3, finding the determinant is miserable. So you're going to do matrix. It is an operation on a matrix, so you go to the right one, and it's the very first choice. Everybody see determinant? Went into matrix, arrow to the right once. So we're going to hit enter, and then we have to tell it to do that to matrix A. Determinant of matrix A. So you have to put the name A there, and you get negative 6. Everybody good? That's how you find the determinant. Okay, now to find the inverse, back on the home screen, put the name of A, and then you hit that matrix button again without doing second. So it says A to the negative 1. A to the negative 1. That means the inverse of A. Now you get some crazy business, but if you do math, enter, enter, you should get exactly what we had here. Nice fraction answers. Okay? So that's how you do an inverse on the calculator and how you do a determinant. All right? I am going to suggest that if we had to find out whether these are inverses, you have several options, guys. You could type this in A and type this in B and decide if A times B gives you the identity matrix. Okay? Another way to check really fast if it even has an inverse is to find the determinant. 11 minus 10 is what? 1. So the determinant is 1. So 1 over 1 should equal A flipped around and signs changed. Is that what this one looks like? Okay, so we could type them in, but A times B and B times A should be the identity matrix, so yes, these are inverses. There's my explanation of why, because I get an identity when I multiply them. Number 5, again, if I want to save myself some time, determinant. This is 3 minus 8. That's negative 5. So I'd have negative 1/5 times some crazy matrix that switched those and changed the signs here. Does that look like B? If I start doing negative 1/5 of all this, am I going to get this? No, so these are not inverses. I don't know what that says. Doesn't say inverses. Okay. Try again. All right, this one literally says find the determinant. I'm going to stop this for a minute because this is something that FISO could do on the calculator. I'll restart in a second, guys. If you type this in your calculator and then you do a to the negative 1, the error it will give you, it'll say error and then it'll say like singular matrix or something. Okay? When you see this singular error, it means that there is no inverse. Somebody get it to show up? Yes? Okay. I'm going to go on to number 7. What is the determinant of this one? I get the determinant is negative 5. Okay, that's the determinant in and of itself. Determinant is negative 5. If we wanted to do the inverse by hand, we'd have to do 1 over negative 5. Then we'd switch these, and we'd change the signs on these two. Anybody tell me what that's going to be? It's going to be 1/5, 2/5, 1/5, and negative 3/5. All right, does anybody remember how we did this last week? I made you find a couple of these by hand before I even taught you the rule. Remember it went like this? You had to do this times ABCD equals 1001, and then you've got a whole system of 4 equations that you had to solve. Find A and B and C and D. Okay, moving on. So one more time, this means inverse, okay? And this is how you do it by hand. All right, this is lesson 6.3 now. It's using an inverse. You're going to use an inverse to solve. I just want to go through this example really fast. Pay attention up here. It's not on your paper. And then we're just going to do those 3 more questions at the bottom. We're going to skip a bunch and do the 3 at the bottom and be done. You guys can get this. Okay. What we're going to do is, we talked about this before we did it this way. We put that all in one matrix. We typed this. And we got 1, 0, 0, 1. This one comes out 4, 3. Remember when we did it by RREF and we said the answer was 4, 3? Okay? You do the same thing today with a different method. It's called using the inverse. And you have to understand this part right here, the rewriting as a multiplication problem. What we're doing is we're taking this part of the problem and making it into a square matrix. Everybody see? 2, negative 3, negative 3, 5. Then we're going to take the answers and make them into their own little matrix over here. Now, I need you to understand why this works. Watch. If I do row times column, I should get this answer. Row times column gives me 2 times x plus negative 3 times y equals negative 1. See that anywhere else? It's this equation, right? So this row down here times this same xy column has to give me 3, would be negative 3x plus 5y equals 3. All right, once you type once you set it up as a matrix multiplication, then you're going to put this in A in your calculator, and you're going to put this in B, and you're going to type inverse of A times B, and it's going to give you the answer for X and Y. I want us to try problem number 7 right here. Rewrite this as a matrix multiplication. We'll have, please write it down, okay? -2, 5, was it a -2 before I scribbled on top of it? Okay. So it's a 2 by 2 times a matrix that has an X and a Y. If those were a B and a V, you'd have to put B and V in your little matrix, okay? 24 and -10. We have rewritten it as a matrix multiplication problem. Now we're going to put this in matrix A and this in matrix B, and then on the home screen we're going to type inverse of A times B. I'm going to stop and put, okay, I put matrix A in as a 2 by 2. So on the screen I want to say matrix A, then I do to the -1, which is the matrix button again, times B, and I think it's okay if you leave out that multiplication. Actually, it'll do it either way. Whoops. I have the name of B on my screen. Okay, it has to be in that order, inverse of A times B. The order matters when you multiply. All right, I got -2, 4. Did anybody else get -2, 4?
Yeah, I did.
That is your XY answer. So the ordered pair, if we were to graph those two lines, they would intersect at -2, 4. Philip?
I'm not understanding how if you just put it on there, so it becomes matrix 24.
No, we separated this into a matrix multiplication problem. This row times this column has to equal this entry.
Yes, but can you just write it like one matrix that is -2, 5, and 1?
If you're going to use RREF, yes. If it says you have to use the inverse, then you have to do it this way because you can only find an inverse of a square matrix. This is like a division, guys. If I said this times this equals this, and you wanted to find XY, you would divide, right? There is no such thing as dividing. So it's inverse of A times B. Now, on your homework, if it just says solve, I don't care if you use RREF, okay? But if it says write as a matrix multiplication problem, I need to know that you know how to do it this way. All right, what would this one look like, guys, because it's going to have some zeros? 1, 0, -1, right? 3, 2, 1. And then XYZ this time equals 5, -4, 0. Has anybody already got it done? Because I'm going to run out of recording here. I want to talk about one other thing quick. Your answer is going to be a 3 by 1, and that's your XYZ. Before I run out of recording though, I want to talk about number 9. When you go to type in number 9 and you do inverse of A times B, it's going to say error, okay? Singular matrix. Number 10, I'm sorry, this is number 10. When you do number 10, that means there's no solution. Now, when this stops recording, I'm going to go ahead and show you this, but this is the same as this. Remember last week when we did RREF and we got this in the bottom row? 0x plus 0y plus 0z equals 1. I'm going to show you this in a minute, but this means that there's no solution. Both of those are equivalent when it gives you this and it says an error, or when it gave you this using RREF. That means no solution, okay? So you have book work to do on page 383 and 392. Sorry, Faisal, about the 2 separate recordings thing. Good luck.